All right, an amazing panel. So many nuggets. I'm going to have to watch the recording because I was just mesmerized by all of that. But keeping it rolling and moving on to our next session. And so this session is called Clinical Diversity in Beauty. And you'll see a couple additional panelists have joined us, Carrie Strom and Dr. Michelle Henry. And so I'll tell you a little bit about what this session is going to be about. When we think about beauty, we don't always think about the fields of dermatology and medical aesthetics. These are fields where the diversity and inclusion conversation is especially critical when it comes to the Black community being informed on treatment and product safety, as well as the importance of clinical trial diversity to ensure products and treatments are made with people of color in mind. Today, we will have a discussion between two trailblazers in these fields. Carrie Strom is Senior Vice President, AbbVie, and President, Global Allergan Aesthetics, and has served in this role since May of 2020. Prior to joining AbbVie, Carrie served as Senior Vice President, U.S. Medical Aesthetics at Allergan, overseeing the aesthetic portfolio for the multi-billion-dollar U.S. business, including brands we know like Botox, Derm, Full Sculpting, and Skin Medica.
Full Sculpting. Yes, sorry.
Dr. Michelle Henry is a board-certified dermatologist and Harvard-trained Mohs surgeon. She provides exceptional care for her patients at her practice, Skin and Aesthetic Surgery of Manhattan, in the Midtown East neighborhood of Manhattan, New York. Her areas of expertise include high-risk skin cancer treatments, aesthetic surgery, and treating skin of color. And she also specializes in Mohs micrographic, reconstructive, and cosmetic surgery. Really testing my vocabulary today. In her practice, Dr. Henry believes in using the most state-of-the-art techniques and research-backed methods to provide high quality and holistic care. Join me in welcoming Carrie and Dr. Michelle Henry.
Thank you, Nanette. Can everyone hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for having me. And it's such a pleasure to be here with the one and only Dr. Michelle Henry. Dr. Henry, I think one of the last times we were together in person before all this was the 30th birthday of Botox in New York City.
Yes, it was.
I wanted to also thank Dr. Henry because Allergan Aesthetics wouldn't be here working with 25 Black women in beauty if it weren't for Dr. Henry. So a quick story on that is, I guess maybe 6 months ago, Allergan Aesthetics started a customer advisory panel on how we can improve equity, equality, diversity, and inclusion in the aesthetics market. And our customers in our business are dermatologists, plastic surgeons, nurse practitioners, all practicing aesthetic medicine. And we were brainstorming on things that we could do different, better, partnerships we could forge. And Dr. Henry suggested this group that I had never heard of, which was 25 Black Women in Beauty. And considering our focus on and improving diversity in the aesthetics market and also at Allergan Aesthetics, we thought this would be a perfect powerhouse group of women to network with, since we all have the mission of beauty in common. So thank you, Dr. Henry, for this connection.
Of course, happy to.
Okay, so we were just gonna have a chat. So Dr. Henry and I were just gonna chat, and we'd love if you all have any questions. I'll kick it off with Dr. Henry, just to ask you, in your busy practice and all of the lectures that you're giving all around the world, are you seeing anything that's especially encouraging around improving diversity in aesthetics?
Yes, absolutely. Especially in the last year. So I feel like in the last year, there's been a global shift in the world in terms of our consciousness regarding diversity and race in general. And that has really encouraged companies to have some really uncomfortable but important and impactful conversations. And so companies like Allergan with the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Board, other companies are having these conversations. And I think before, beauty is supposed to be a positive space. And I think because of that, many companies were kind of lulled into this idea of, we don't see color, we're colorblind. That is inclusivity. And I think now companies realize that that's just not enough. And so now we're having these conversations about how do we make sure that our Black and brown customers feel included and they feel that this was their product from the inception and that we didn't retrofit this product to them. And so companies like Allergan are really thinking about that, even from a research standpoint. You know, there are not many medical aesthetics companies that have made that investment in terms of research, looking to see what is the psychology of this customer? What do they need? How do they feel in the space? Do they feel like they belong in the medical aesthetics arena? So I'm definitely seeing that in medical aesthetics. And then even in skincare, I have companies that are really listening to Black and brown customers, listening to the data about the sorts of ingredients that we're concerned about, our concerns about, you know, clean products, our concerns about toxic ingredients in our products. So these are real conversations, very specific conversations about what customers need, what Black and brown customers are feeling. And so it's very encouraging because, you know, years ago, we just weren't that specific. You know, the fact that I could sit on a board and say, you know what, in this marketing campaign, I don't see any Black women with kinky hair or ethnic features, and that makes me uncomfortable. Or if I see that that's all I see, it's also like our customers are very smart and we understand what tokenism feels like. And we understand that Black women are not a monolith. And we need to really, if we're truly going to be invested in diversity, we need to do just that and make sure we're representing all women in a really real, sincere way. And that's beyond hair type, skin color, that's also body type. That's also ability and gender and sexual orientation and religion. And so having all these really sincere conversations in medical aesthetics and in skincare and all of the industries that we would consider in our beauty world is exciting to me. And there's so many of them at this point. It's hard for me to keep up, but it's so encouraging because I think these conversations are going to be impactful. So I am thrilled about that and thrilled about the ad board and thrilled about the follow-up and all that we have planned moving forward with this year. And I really loved Allergan's approach in having these ad boards, and we actually get follow-up. You know, it's not just lip service, we're actually talking about it. So that's been really great for me. And as I've mentioned before, this is one of the few companies that has that research that is really looking at, you know, what is different about Black women? What is different about this customer beyond just psychology, those anatomical differences that will change our approach. So a lot of what happens when a company, or whether it's a laser or it is an injectable treatment, gets to market, and if there aren't enough Black and brown patients in the research, people are figuring it out. You know, they may not have a clear protocol. And so I'm hearing a lot of companies that I'm working with, we're helping to develop protocols so that when these companies are on the market, anyone can treat these patients in a very safe way. And so that's really encouraging that we're seeing this investment in R&D with that specific focus on women of color. So that's exciting. So another question for you, Carrie. I know that you guys are very outcome oriented. So I want to hear a little bit more about the outcomes you guys have seen from the outcomes that you've seen and the direction you're moving from the Consumer Advisory Board.
Okay, well, thank you for your feedback and for your help and driving that direction. So we have these customers that give us feedback on how we can do it the right way and make it so it's not just like a one-time trend. This is actually the way that we change our approach to marketing fundamentally. And there's a few components to it. One is we need to have products that have been studied and proven in all types of patients. And that's what Dr. Henry's talking to around clinical trials. And this isn't something that can happen overnight. Unfortunately, right now, about 75% of patients studied in clinical trials are white and white women, usually in our case. And so, you know, that's something that we need to improve. And with the help of Dr. Henry and other dermatologists and plastic surgeon partners, we're going to do that, but we have to do things differently. We can't go to the same doctors we always went to do the studies. We have to go to doctors that have the patients that we need to add to the patient population. And that means we need to teach these doctors how to do clinical trials, because not all doctors do clinical trials. So there's a paradigm shift there that we're 100% invested in. And then when we have these products that we feel good about that are, and that's a huge differentiator for us in medical aesthetics, is our products are all rigorously studied and have a lot of clinical proof behind them. And the FDA, in fact, either approves or clears these products before they can be used. And in some cases, it's hundreds of millions of dollars of investment behind some of these brands. And so that gives the confidence to the consumer and also to our customers that they can stand by these products. And then it's about how do we market them? And Dr. Henry is giving us good feedback so that we're not, there's no unintended messages. We're doing everything in a way that it's truly diverse and it's inclusive and it's insight-based. And those insights are based on market research. We're doing a partnership right now with another company called Skin Better Science to launch the DREAM Initiative. The DREAM Initiative has a few components, and one of them is called Forces of Beauty. And Forces of Beauty is going to be a very robust market research initiative where we study and ask questions so that we then know what are the unmet needs of all consumers, and then how do we meet that in our marketing. One thing that we have learned is that 70% of African American and Asian women feel like their needs are not met by premium brands right now. And that's a problem culturally, and it's also a problem business-wise. Like there's a lot of money being left on the table. We know that African American women spend more than $500 million on skincare. And that's a really healthy, growing market that we all want to be a part of. So, I mean, I'd say in our business, everything has to be rooted in science and proof, and we need to make sure we're generating that. And then from there, we need to generate the insights and do market research to understand how we can meet unmet needs of our consumers. And again, like I said, it's because it's the right thing to do, and also it's a great business opportunity. So Dr. Henry, could you tell us a little bit about what you think about that in terms of what needs to be done to bridge the gap right now with healthcare? And it's such a long-term challenge. So if I believe it's less than 3% of doctors are African-American, and even less that are African-American women, yet think of all the patients out there that are African-American women then, and there's a lot of good research out there that indicates that patients are better taken care of when they're taken care of by someone who looks like them. So tell us about the long-term plan to help fix that disparity.
Yeah, so I think a big part of that is we need more Black physicians. We need to recruit more Black physicians. We need to increase the interest in our space, which that number has increased. I think this year, it was over 5% of the applicants were Black women and men into dermatology, and that's very encouraging. We know that about 13% of the population, 13.5% of the population is African American, and that's only to increase. I think by 2060, it's to be 15%. And so we definitely need more numbers. In addition to the numbers, we need more education. And so we need more mentorship. We need to have a coalition to teach other doctors because, of course, we need to have cultural competency, but my hope is that one day we can walk into any physician's office and they could treat us appropriately. So we need more research, we need more literature, we need more textbooks. I think that was also really exposed with COVID. We learned pretty early on that Black and brown patients were disproportionately affected. We learned pretty early on that there were these skin lesions that could help us in making that diagnosis, or help us also in some ways determine the potential prognosis, but that it looked very different in Black and brown skin, and we didn't have images of that. Because the data often lags when we think about Black and brown patients. So I think things like that, the investment in research, the investment in Black physicians, making sure that we're educating all physicians appropriately, that we're equipped with the right data. The research has to catch up. We have to include Black patients. We have to, I like what you said, because of historically many of the medical ills, I guess, against Black and brown patients in the country, there is in many ways a well-deserved hesitancy when it comes to research. And so we need to break through that so that Black and brown patients can benefit from advances in science. So using more Black doctors in research trials are going to be really critical to making sure that we can make sure that that our data reflects our population. So I think it really is about making that investment in a very sincere, concerted, and organized manner to increase our numbers.
Yeah, and that based on the feedback we've heard from you and others on that, we have a few programs. One is a skin of color atlas that is inclusive of all skin tones, so that dermatologists don't have to grab two different skin atlases when they're trying to make a diagnosis. It's comprehensive. And the second thing that we've done is we've created a implicit bias residency training program. So until we can help to bridge this gap between the number of, for instance, African-American doctors versus African-American patients, we need to train all doctors on how to take the best care of all patients. And this implicit bias training helps to make sure that dermatology and plastic surgery residents are aware of any implicit bias they may have when they're taking care of their patients. So thank you for your feedback to help us get to those two new programs. I did have a question that you made me think of, and I had a doctor call me the other day and say, hey, you got to do better with your marketing, because I had a patient call me and say, I saw an ad for Juvederm. Can Black women have Juvederm? And, you know, that's a fail for me. Like, of course, all women can have, all men, everyone can have Juvederm. And so that's a fail that we haven't done our best to make sure that our marketing and our education is inclusive. I wonder, what do you hear in your practice? Do you hear anything like this?
I hear exactly that. I have exactly that. And so I am pretty shameless in telling my patients that I have filler, I have Botox, you know, I'm a Black woman. This is what I do. I've done it for a very long time. But I think that is what happens when the marketing or advertising doesn't reflect those patients. And that's why it's so important that we think about true diversity and representing real women when we do advertising and marketing and things of that nature. Because a lot of my Black patients ask me questions like, not only is it not for me, I guess from like a social standpoint, but from like a biological standpoint, does it work on me? You know, it goes that deep that people feel like, you know, somehow biologically it's not going to work on us. And that's incorrect. And so I think those are conversations that we need to have. There's a little bit of, I think, normalization of medical aesthetics now with social media, and people are seeing it and it's kind of lifting that veil, and they're seeing women that look like them having these procedures. But outside of, you know, our little social media world, we need to branch out to those folks who may not be able to access it on social media or are not there or may not trust that space. We really need to make sure that they see patients like them, because it's good. Everyone should be able to have access to feeling like their best self, but it's also for companies, it's like you said, a smart business decision. This is a population that is equally as invested in making sure that they look good and feel good, and that they're using products that are safe for them and has been tested for them. So yeah, absolutely. That is something I see, and a barrier that I think all of us, we have lots of dermatologists on the line, which I'm sure would nod their heads that it's a barrier that we have to break through often. So, but question for you. How did you get so involved in a lot of the diversity initiatives at Allergan?
Well, so I've been at Allergan for, 10 years. But only recently in the aesthetics business. Before that, I was working on Allergan, the therapeutic business. So Botox, actually. I work on Botox now, of course, for Botox cosmetic. But before I worked on Botox for Botox therapeutic, where there's 11 therapeutic indications. I really fell in love with the molecule then. The product really changes people's lives when you think about the impact it has on people who have post-stroke spasticity, horrible chronic migraine, debilitating overactive bladder, children with cerebral palsy. So it has many indications that made me fall in love with this product. And now I work on the cosmetic side, where it does so much to empower confidence in people. And that's really our mantra in Allergan Aesthetics. It's not about vanity. It's not just about beauty. It's about confidence. And I want all people to feel like they can be confident. I don't just want, 45-year-old white women who have been sort of our de facto target for the past 20 years. I want everyone to experience the power that these products can do. And especially after COVID, when people, were stuck at home and it was such a devastating time. And when the doors started to reopen in May, and for many of our customers, like Dr. Henry and other dermatologists and plastic surgeons, and patients would just flood in to these offices because they wanted to do something that made them feel good, right? They wanted to take control, and maybe they can't get a manicure, but they can get a little Botox or a little Juvederm, and it really made them feel like they were taking control and feeling like their best selves again. And I want everyone to experience that. And I think we're not achieving that goal in terms of the ability to make sure that all people, races, gender, sexual orientations, abilities, understand our products can do that for them. And now that we're a part of AbbVie, so Allergan Aesthetics was acquired in May of 2020 by a fabulous company called AbbVie. It's 47,000 people, 190 billion market cap. So we're a big company, right? We're a big research-based biopharmaceutical company. So now we have all these resources, and we have so many resources to invest in really embracing this concept of improving diversity, not only in our aesthetics market, but also with our team and our people. So I encourage you, if you don't follow Allergan Aesthetics or AbbVie on Instagram, I encourage you to check it out, and you can see what we've really been focused on in this area for the past almost, I guess 9 months since we've been a part of this company. And so that's the way I think about it. I think there's a huge opportunity to improve diversity for our market because I want all consumers to have that opportunity, and it's a great business opportunity, and also for our people. And so that's a big focus we have, is how do we improve diversity inside at Allergan Aesthetics? And this is one great opportunity, is networking with all of you. And I hope that I can follow up with many of you and we can get to know each other better. And perhaps there's different opportunities for either programs, partnerships, talent development, mentorships, because like I said, we're all in this beauty business together. So I think it's also a great opportunity to partner with our customers. Dr. Henry, you mentioned the customer ad board. And then we also have many employee ad boards. Our employee ad boards are important so that we're hearing from all of our employees. And we have different employee resource groups, we call them. There's 9 of them. For instance, I'm a member of Women in Leadership. I'm also a sponsor for our Pride employee resource group. There's also a Black Business Network resource group. And so that's been a great opportunity because we can all interview each other in these resource groups, employee resource groups, and understand, what's it like to be a woman at AbbVie? What's it like to be a gay man at AbbVie, depending on what resource group you're in. And then we take those insights and we try to build on them and make AbbVie and Allergan Aesthetics somewhere that is not only bringing in more diverse talent, but making the diverse talent feel like they can be their whole selves at work, right? It's this concept of, you don't just want to invite someone to the party, you also want to invite them to dance once they're at the party, right? So it's this concept of, it's the recruiting, but it's also the building a culture. Mm-hmm. So anyway, it's something I'm very proud of that our company is doing, and it's not a trend. This is a long-term commitment. And AbbVie's put its money where its mouth is. I think the company's given more than $55 million to ED&I based charities over the past year, and it's something that we'll continue to do. It's the right thing to do, and it's a great business opportunity, like I keep saying.
Yeah. And I will say, I've been on a lot of these boards, and the level of sincerity that I've noticed, and the level of comfort. And I think that maybe dermatologists are just a vocal bunch, but the level of just honesty that I've been hearing on these boards and level of passion is just really heartening. And the follow-up that we've had has definitely made me a believer in the fact that there will be some great change coming.
Yeah, we're excited, and it's a pleasure to be able to do it with you and groups like this. Because you got to mix business with pleasure, right? We're all working so hard. You want to work with people that you really enjoy and that make you feel like you're all in this together and we're all moving forward. And it is a point in time that we want to, I think we have this opportunity. We have the resources, we have the influence, and we need to put those things in action. Mm-hmm. Dr. Henry, what trends are you seeing? So trends are one of my favorite topics because we want to always get ahead of the trend, right? We want to be driving the trend. But you're seeing them, and you're seeing them and hearing them firsthand from your patients. So what do you think are some of the big trends in beauty?
So there are many big trends in beauty. I guess I'll start out with consumers are smart and doing their research and advocating for themselves. And so I am definitely, I think over the years, and definitely, especially this year, I have had patients coming in asking very pointed, directed questions about ingredients and mechanisms. And in skincare, I'm seeing a push towards, like I said earlier, a lot of that kind of clean clinical, staying away from toxic ingredients. So definitely seeing more of that. I'm definitely seeing in skincare as well, a push away from makeup. You know, gone are the days where we're seeing this, not makeup completely, but more of a more natural look. It's a lot about skin and about showing their skin and about the glow. And it may have been some of that has come with quarantine. Many of us aren't out, so we had a lot of time to spend with ourselves in the mirror, looking at our skin and thinking of ways and maybe taking a few little risks to improve it. But that's definitely been a big conversation. So in terms of skincare, a lot of the clean clinical conversation, I've been seeing a lot of push in chemical peels, things of that nature. I've been seeing more of a push in laser and energy devices in patients of color as well. And I think I've also been noticing that pressure on a lot of the laser and energy device companies to improve products or develop protocols so that every patient can derive the benefits from a lot of these devices and procedures and techniques. I guess in other areas of medical aesthetics, I've been seeing more and more, and it's been increasing over the years, Black women coming in for injectables that feel more comfortable. And I think, as I said before, there's kind of a normalization of this. We've seen our friends, we've seen our celebrities, we've seen behind the scenes on Instagram or wherever it is. It's no longer as taboo. And I think that that is a huge area of growth. I always talk to my patients when I talk about my Black patients versus my white patients. You know, my white patients are kind of my wrinklers and my shrinkers, and my Black patients are my sinkers and my saggers. So oftentimes my Black patients are coming in getting fillers first before they're getting a neurotoxin. And so that's an area that's really, really growing. Like even when I talk to my reps, they always say, you buy so much more filler. We use a lot of them, but it's like, you know, a lot of people are using more neurotoxin than they are filler. And I just use a lot because I have so many Black and brown patients. And again, those are my saggers and my sinkers. And that's an area that's just really, really growing. And completely, I feel I've been really wowed by the shift in people that are talking to their friends about it. And it's a lot less taboo. So that's definitely an area that's growing. And I'm excited about, you know, all of the new products that are on the horizon to give a lot of these patients more, you know, better results, more natural results. There's always been an investment in natural, but I think that's growing even more. And it's no longer just like a suggestion that I'd like to be natural. It's an expectation because people are becoming more educated about what we can provide. And I think that that pressure is making us better. So I think it's for the next year, it's all about looking good, looking more natural, beautiful skin, beautiful contouring. And I think that pressure is just going to make the industry better.
Yeah, I totally agree. Natural is the key word. And natural is in the eye of the beholder, of course, right? So, so that's why you need to have like a very good relationship conversation with your healthcare provider and make sure that concept of natural is clearly defined. But in all of our market research across all of our patient types, always that's the number one barrier. When someone's like, I think I'd like to try Botox or Juvederm, and the reason but is always, but I'm afraid I'm gonna look unnatural. And so that's 100% the marketing challenge we're trying to solve. And we need to make sure we're solving it in a insight-based way based on all people. Because like you said, natural is different. It's in the eye of the beholder. And so it's a big, you know, marketing challenge that we are going to address head on. And then the other one is, well, if I love it, am I going to have to pay for it for the rest of my life? Right, which is, I guess, a practical reality, and so, you know, that's where we have, you know, great programs. We have our loyalty program and all sorts of reasons that we can overcome that. But at least we know that once they have overcome that, they're only worried about how do I make this a part of my life. And I do think that it's been destigmatized quite a bit, not totally, right, but quite a bit. And I do think that these masks and the staying at home is a helpful catalyst for our business, because if you're interested in trying anything, you can go ahead and put your mask on and recover from it for the day or two, right? Or if you want to try something else, I've talked to a lot of our plastic surgeon partners. A lot of people are kind of getting some improvements done that they have the right time because they can stay home, right? And they can be recovering as they're working from home. So it's all about, for me, my goal is that if you want to try something, you should do it. If you don't, that's great too. But it's about empowering the confidence to make the decisions and take the control that you want, that make you feel like the best version of yourself. And that's what this market is all about, whether it's medical aesthetics, whether it's skincare, makeup, or everything in between.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And I always tell my patients, there's this weird bias with medical aesthetics is that you see the bad work and you never see the good work. So you never know all the amazing good work that's maybe sitting right next to you at work. But I think more and more people are starting to understand that.
That's the best compliment you get, right? What? You use Botox and Juvederm?
Exactly. So should we do some rapid fire questions?
Yeah, so we have a few questions that have come through that I think, Nanette, do you want to just highlight, and I'll start with one, which is the sales reps and sort of diversifying that space, like what steps are, because that's a key, way of like creating that authentic connection, if you will. What steps is Allergan taken to diversify their sales reps?
Well, Ella, thank you for that question. It's something we need to do a lot better on, and it's something we're very focused on. So we know, I know all of our Black sales reps, and we have had conversations individually with all of them and as a group. And so the first step one is, how do we make sure that the Black sales reps we already have feel like they are able to progress their career and reach whatever career ambition they have here. And so we have individual conversations. They've each developed an own individual development plan. They have mentors specific to based on what their career interests are. And so that's our active plan for the sales reps we already have. And then from there, we have a long-term, well, 2-year it's long-term, but we need to create, real milestones in the near future where we will improve the diversity landscape of all of our employees, whether they be African-American, Latinx, Asian, women. There's also, I happen to have a great job at Allergan, but there are also a lot of opportunities to improve gender representation at higher levels. And so we have developed partnerships and recruiting partnerships with historically Black colleges and universities. Other customers on our ad board, like Dr. Henry, have helped us connect specifically with their alma maters and helped us to physically go to virtually these days, the events and represent. The National Sales Network has been a great group. That's a group of Black sales reps from all over the country that we've been able to connect with. And what we want to do is we want to introduce Allergan aesthetics and say a lot of people might not have heard of Allergan aesthetics, and we want to introduce who we are and build these purposeful recruiting partnerships where we can bring people in. And then we have policies internally around making sure that we have a diverse slate. We need to make sure for every single role that we are hiring for that the hiring manager has evaluated a diverse slate. So there's a lot we're doing. It's a huge area of focus. Like you said, we want to make sure that we're bringing in more talent, and then we also want to make sure that the talent we already have is being developed.
Wonderful, thank you. Mm-hmm. Nanette, I think we have probably time for 1 or 2 questions.
Yeah, I think we wanted to double click a little bit, and there's a question in the Q&A about clinical trial diversity, and that fact that you stated, Carrie, about 70% of clinical trial patients being, non-women of color. And so just talking a little bit more about that, how do we as consumers support diversity in clinical trials? What is being done in the industry to really, broaden the types of products and the types of people that products are tested on?
So I can start, and then Dr. Henry, I'll let you add anything. So at Allergan Aesthetics, we are, first, we are working with the primary investigators. So the clinical trial investigators, who are the dermatologists or plastic surgeons, we're doing purposeful outreach to those that have the diverse patient populations we need to study, because we can't keep doing what we've always been doing, because what we've always been doing is, and we've been working with doctors who have primarily white patient populations. So we need to change that first, right? And that what comes along with that, again, is helping to empower and teach these doctors how to do clinical trials in case they don't already do them. So that's step one. And then step 2 is just making sure that we have the right mix of patients in all of the studies that we do. And Dr. Henry mentioned there's questions because people don't know. I mean, I think there was a question a long time ago around like, do certain injectables create different scarring profiles based on your skin type? I mean, these are all questions that we have to answer, and we won't answer them unless we have the right patients. And then from there, make sure the labeling is very clear so that anyone who looks at the labeling of a product will understand. And there was another story I heard recently where a customer called me and said, you have a scar gel, a gel you use, you know, on your face to help accelerate the healing of a scar. And it says, your scar will be healed. You know your healing is complete when the scar is white. And the patient's like, well, I'm never going to have a white scar, so how do I know? And so those are all examples along the way of how we will be doing better.
Yes, and from my standpoint, you know, when you enroll a Black patient, most of my patients that have been seeing me for years, we've already established a level of trust. But whenever we are starting to have a conversation about, it's a longer conversation. And so I've worked in a number of large groups that have had really, really robust research centers and have enrolled, you know, thousands of non-Black patients. And I will say that oftentimes the conversation is a little bit different. You know, a lot of my Black and brown patients have a level of hesitancy, even in a space where they really trust the doctor. And so what I do is I have a full conversation with them about any potential risk, any potential side effect. I talk to them about what the process will be like. I let them know that, you know, this is something that, you know, I would participate in. And if it's not, I wouldn't have it in my office. So it's about really taking that time and understanding that there may be a level of hesitancy. And a part of the job is to just really talk to them and make sure that they understand it. It's something that they want to participate in. And so, you know, that's how I approach it. But I will say that there's definitely, even in an office that they trust, that little barrier that requires a bit more hand-holding, but we often get over it with that additional hand-holding. And just not to, if you're thinking about enrolling these patients, don't be put off, expect that tiny barrier and know that it just requires a little bit more, a touch more, I guess, love and attention to get them over that barrier. But oftentimes they're happy with the results, and it's very important data that we're getting to expand the industry.
Wonderful. Nanette, do we have another? Just one more, perhaps?
Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of people are asking about, you know, Carrie, you mentioned kind of career paths at Allergan and how diversifying people in medical aesthetics, like the ways that people can, you know, get on the career path and accelerate up the career path and the work that you're doing there.
Oh, well, anyone on this call can call me, text me, email me, and I'd love to make a connection directly. We have a lot of different career paths at Allergan, everywhere from R&D to marketing to legal, HR, finance, right? So it's really, the sky is the limit in terms of career opportunities here. Field-based, of course, with our sales team and field-based medical teams. And then also we have a few home offices in Irvine, California, where I'm based, in Chicago, where AbbVie, the company who acquired us, is based. And then we also have offices in Northern California, Austin, Texas, Branchburg, New Jersey, all over the world. And I say that just as a selling point because I do believe that this is a great company where no matter what your interest is, you will be developed, and you can, the sky is the limit in terms of what you can accomplish here and where you can, where you want to work and live. And reach out to me. Also, you know, on LinkedIn, like I said, we're developing these partnerships to try to attract all sorts of talent. And so, yeah, call me. We'd love to get you all connected with Allergan Aesthetics and AbbVie.
And I do want to add that we actually have a number of opportunities from Allergan that's on our career board. So definitely, you know, check it out, and we continue to update it. So, I mean, this is Black History Month. We're moving into Women's History Month, and I think we would be remiss not to acknowledge, you know, what you've done, Carrie. I mean, you're president at a multi-billion-dollar company, you know, that is male-dominated. So kudos to you. Can you just speak a little bit, just candidly, about your career path and sort of how you got here, just your journey, your personal story?
Oh, well, thank you very much. I've been in healthcare for my entire career. I started as a sales rep for Pfizer, selling Lipitor and Viagra to doctors in the Northeast. I worked my way up the career path. I moved here to Irvine to take this job at Allergan 10 years ago. It was by far the best thing I ever did. It was a high risk decision because it was a bit of a lateral. And it's hard to move across the country from New York to California and move your whole family. My husband had to leave his job, my children, for a lateral, but I wanted to do it because I wanted to work at a company where I felt like, and although I loved Pfizer, I wanted to work at a smaller company where I felt like I could roll up my sleeves and have a bigger impact, and it paid off. And I'd say one of the keys to my success in terms of where I am now is I said yes to every job, every opportunity, every stretch role that anyone ever offered me. And it was hard because in the 10 years I've been at Allergan, I've probably had 8 roles. And that means just by the time you figure something out, you leave to go do something else. But it really paid off because I developed this breadth of experience that was accelerated in such a short amount of time. And I also developed a very strong network because I basically knew everybody in every department after having 8 jobs in 10 years. And those relationships matter. And whether you're a peer or someone's above you or below you, all those relationships matter, and you never know what conversations are happening. And I believe that, that has helped me to get to where I am now. Also, I feel like I have great leaders, and I trust my leaders. I put my head down, I do good work, and I'm not trying to over-engineer my career, although I am open to every opportunity that comes to me. I do think I work harder than your average bear. So it's not like things have been easy. There's been a lot of trade-offs. I've missed a lot of soccer games, a lot of recitals, a lot of date nights. I miss them. But I do feel like I love my work, and loving it makes it easy because even though things are trade-offs, and they're trade-offs for all of us all the time, I do feel like it's a trade-off for the right reason. And at the end of the day, it makes me a better mom, a better wife, and a much better business person because I have this balance. And I do feel like I have the best job in the world. I mean, being in charge of Botox, cosmetic, Juvederm, cool sculpting, Skin Medica, I mean, there is no better job in the world.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to Allergan. Allergan is a sponsor of ours.